Hello, this is Juanita Papineau from the University of Florida Lake County Extension, and I'm going to be presenting today for the 4-H virtual day camp on citrus greening. Citrus greening is a bacterial infection that clogs the phloem of the tree. That is a part of the tree that allows sugars produced during photosynthesis in the leaves to travel to the roots, and nutrients from the roots to travel up to the leaves where they're needed for growth. When this gets blocked up by all this bacteria, the tree starves and declines. The fruit is of poor quality and often falls off before it ripens. The original name for this disease is yellow dragon or huanglongbing because some branches on a tree turn yellow while others stay green, like the photo on the right. With some imagination, you can see how it kind of looks like a yellow dragon wrapped around a tree. The Asian citrus psyllid, or ACP, is the insect that spreads citrus greening. The insect alone causes some damage to the leaves, notches as seen on that right photo, but it does not kill the tree. The insects are attracted to the flush of new growth that citrus trees have periodically through the growing season. Eggs are laid on these new leaves. The immature insects seen in the top photo can move around on a tree a short distance, but when it becomes an adult, it can fly around from tree to tree. That is when the piercing, sucking mouth parts pick up bacteria from one tree and transfer it to other trees. The bottom photo shows the adult and immature insects and the white waxy secretions from the immatures that can help you identify this insect. How has greening affected the industry? It has caused drastic reduction in production. At first, greening was thought to be a nutrient deficiency, and so they didn't do anything about it that was effective, and it spread everywhere. And it causes fruit to drop before they're really harvestable. The fruit that is harvested has reduced quality because the trees are very poor. The trees are dying and the production went way down. As you can see from this graph, the production goes up and down some, and usually down when we have freezes that have killed off trees. But that latest reduction, down to almost 80% reduction in 2018, is caused almost completely by greening. So if you have a citrus project and you have a little tree that you're growing, you may be asking, does my tree have it? Or maybe you have a tree in your backyard, because a lot of Floridians have citrus trees in their backyards. Do your trees have it? Well, most trees will get the disease, and most trees probably already have it. If you have a small tree, keeping your tree disease-free as long as possible will help your tree to become established, because if that tree gets that disease within the first 3 years of life, it often will stunt the tree considerably. So trying to keep your tree disease-free for as long as possible while it's little is the best thing. So how do we tell if your tree has it? Let's check the leaves very carefully. Do they have yellow mottles that are not symmetrical? I'll show you what that means. So here are some typical citrus greening symptoms. On the right-hand side, we have a healthy green leaves. On the left-hand side, we have greening affected leaves, citrus greening affected leaves, and they're starting to turn yellow. The yellowing is not symmetrical. It's not on both sides of that mid vein. And there are a lot of other things that might cause this kind of yellowing, but I'll show you how to tell the difference. So citrus greening symptoms have that yellow mottle on the leaves. They can also cause this kind of vein corking. You can see those veins on the leaves there on the bottom left, and they're kind of raised and corky. Or they may look like the ones on the right, lower right, with very dark yellow yellow veins. These are both symptoms of citrus greening. These photos show you how to tell the difference between a nutrient deficiency and citrus greening. Nutrient deficiencies, remember, that's what they thought they had at first. But nutrient deficiencies are usually symmetrical on either side of the mid vein. So if you draw a line like this right down the mid vein of the leaf, and you look at spots on both sides of that leaf, it's mirror image. If they are mirror images of each other, it's symmetrical, then it's most likely a nutrient deficiency. Whereas if you have a citrus greening affected leaf and you draw a line down the middle and a circle on either side, one side looks different than the other. It's not a mirror image, and that is a sign that it is most likely citrus greening. Citrus greening affected fruit are also malformed. They have really small on one side, larger on the others, or they're kind of curved. Often though, I don't see fruit that are this badly disfigured. Usually the fruit fall off before they get this bad. And you can see on the lower picture a cut out of the fruit, and you can see at the very top there, the stem end, that yellow stain beneath the calyx button. And that is where rot seems to set in from citrus greening affected fruit. And so the fruit often falls off the tree because of that rotten area, and the fruit falls to the ground, so you don't realize how badly the fruit is affected. It's just on the ground, it's not usable anymore. And trees normally drop some fruit, but citrus greening affected trees drop a whole lot more fruit than a normal tree would. So what can you do with your citrus tree? Well, if you start with a young tree and you've just gotten it and it's still clean and not infected with citrus greening, you can put it in an insect excluding mesh bag, and I'll show you that in a moment. You could also use systemic insecticides. This is what's commercially done. They apply an insecticide to the soil, and because it's systemic, it is taken up by the roots and then into the rest of the tree, and essentially makes the tree sap poisonous to the insects. One commonly used is imidacloprid. That's the active ingredient. And it will make the sap poisonous so that when a piercing sucking insect like the Asian citrus psyllid gets on there, it sucks up the poison and dies. Very efficient, but it only works well when you have small trees. Once you get a larger tree, the roots don't take up enough, and also we really don't want our trees to have toxic sap forever, just when they're young and not bearing. There's been some research to show that oak leaves can be extracted or used as a mulch, and there is something in the oak leaves that is helping to control the citrus greening. Not sure, there's still research going on about that, but a lot of people are trying using their oak leaves as a mulch around the trees, or making an oak leaf compost tea and spraying it on the leaves. The research has also shown that increasing the micronutrients, and these are the nutrients that are used in very small amounts, manganese, zinc, iron, and boron. These are used in very small amounts, but if you can increase those, that helps the tree to continue to grow, even if it does have the disease. And then we have Tamarixia wasps, which are biological controls that will work for us, and I'll tell you a little more about them later. Insect excluding cages can help clean young trees to stay free of the psyllid. You may see these in the fields now. The screen has holes that are engineered to be too small for psyllids to get through, but even smaller insects may still be able to get through. If you use a bag, be aware that some insects can still get in, and the beneficial insects that occur naturally to help you control bad insects cannot get into the bag to eat the bad insects. Researchers have found that micronutrients, the nutrients that are needed in very small amounts, are critical to keeping trees alive. These include manganese, iron, zinc, and boron. Micronutrients may not be included in typical fertilizers, so check the analysis on the bags to see if they're included in what you are using. If they are not included, you can purchase micronutrients separately, but be sure not to apply too much because they can cause toxicities if levels are too high. Soil pH can also affect the availability of these nutrients, so make sure your soil pH is not too high or above 6.5. Finally, we have some little helpers in the Tamarixia wasp. These are tiny little wasps that actually lay their eggs in the immature Asian citrus psyllids, and the eggs hatch and grow and eat the psyllid from the inside out. And when they become adults, they chew a hole through that and emerge. So you can see the picture on the right. Those are dead Asian citrus psyllid nymphs with the hole chewed out where the Tamarixia wasp has emerged. So these Tamarixia wasps are helping you to kill these psyllids. And you can get these Tamarixia wasps from the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. So you can use other insects to help you combat Asian citrus psyllids. What are researchers working on to help with citrus greening? Well, they're working on conventional breeding program where they take a resistant plant, which they have to find first, and then cross it with the current varieties that have good quality fruit. They may have to make many crosses over several generations to get a good quality fruit with a resistant or tolerant plant. And this can take 20 years or more, so it's not a quick solution. Genetic engineering should be faster, but it still requires identification of the genes that make a tree resistant, and then turning those genes on in a plant or inserting them into a plant. So that can be faster, but the genes have to be identified first. Researchers are investigating ways to exclude the psyllid with big net structures, something like the insect excluding bags, only on a large scale. And they're also looking at different ways to kill that insect vector, the Asian citrus psyllid, so that it can't infect more trees. Some researchers are working on how to kill the bacteria that is actually in the tree already. So they're working on things they could apply or inject into the trees to kill the bacteria, something like the antibiotics or immunizations that people get for diseases. It's a lot different for trees, though, because they don't have the same kind of biological systems that we do. Finally, researchers are also working on how just to keep the trees growing even though they have that disease. Keep them healthy and producing. So they found that reducing the stress on the trees with constant small amounts of fertilizer and irrigation have had some success. They are using slow release or controlled release fertilizer that gradually releases the nutrients over time, or they are using fertigation where they inject fertilizer into the irrigation system in very small amounts so that they can constantly be giving small amounts of fertilizer to the plants. They've also found that increasing those micronutrients that we talked about before, manganese, iron, zinc, and boron, can help. But care has to be taken because those micronutrients can cause toxicities if the levels get too high. There are some citrus that seem to be tolerant to citrus greening. Sugar Bell and Tango are two older varieties that can have greening but still continue to grow and have green leaves. Sundragon is a very new one that's recently released that has been bred to have greening resistance in the genes. Grapefruit are all pretty susceptible, but the Jackson grapefruit is the only one that shows any kind of tolerance. So if you have to grow a grapefruit, I would say Jackson grapefruit would be the best selection. And then lemons can be grown because they are so vigorous that they seem to outgrow the greening disease and can continue to grow even if they have the disease. Well, that's the end of my talk today. But if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. My email is jpopenoe@ufl.edu, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you have about your citrus trees or any other kind of fruit trees you're growing.